Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for another episode of Into the LightWeb podcast, and I am super excited to share one of my wonderful clients and my next guest, which is Dawn. Dawn, come and introduce yourself and come and say hi to the Into the LightWeb podcast listeners.
Hi, Joanna. I am so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me today. I am a holistic psychic and master energy healer. I help highly sensitive spiritual women to love and empower themselves, holistically heal, and create their amazing lives with the magic of intuition. So I am a highly sensitive person and have been a highly sensitive person and empath since birth. And I grew up with intuitive abilities and healing gifts, but like many sensitive souls, I was unable to see my high sensitivity as a strength because of how often I heard I was too sensitive and that it was a weakness. So from a young age, I was ultimately drawn to self-help, healing, and spirituality to help kind of cure and fix my sensitivity. But this had an amazing side effect, and I became a passionate, lifelong learner. And I now know that being highly sensitive is a sensational superpower that is a beautiful strength and gift. So I've earned many certifications and mastered powerful modalities. And for over 10 years, I've continued to help other highly sensitive people through psychic guidance and holistic healing. And I'm also the creator of the butterfly effect healing.
Let's talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about the early days of growing up as highly sensitive. Right. So let's talk a little bit about that, because you're hearing from everyone, you're too sensitive, you're taking everything to heart. What other chestnuts of beautiful, toxic advice did they have?
Yeah, well said. And, I'm sure that a lot of highly sensitive people can really resonate with that. One of the things that we're told really quickly is that we are too sensitive and that it is a weakness. But unfortunately, we really take that to heart, because part of being highly sensitive means that we feel really deeply, that we're often really intuitive and empathic. And I grew up being able to sense things in a really profound way. I remember being able to see energy and auras, and I did not know what I was seeing, and being able to perceive things in other people. And so I would hear things like, "That's none of your business," and "Why are you talking about that?" And just feeling really connected to that, but not hearing that it was something that I was supposed to be experiencing. So that led to a lot of bullying, a lot of being, feeling like, sort of a unicorn, but not in a good way. It led to a lot of alienation. And I grew up in a really toxic environment, unfortunately. So it wasn't nurtured. And what I really remember standing out was when my dad passed away. So when I was 11 years old, he passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm. And that was when a lot of my spiritual gifts and my high sensitivity just heightened extraordinarily. All of a sudden, I could hear more things in my mind. I could sense things in a deeper way. And I felt like I didn't know where this was coming from, why I was so highly sensitive, but it was amplified in an even bigger way that I couldn't really understand, but it led me to be really curious and have a deep sense of wonderment about what the heck was wrong with me. But what does it actually mean?
Did you definitely feel like when you were younger, because I feel like that's such a common trait of people looking, because I know I did the same thing, is looking at myself and thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? That not accepting myself, I suppose, in a way, like learning not to accept myself because others were not accepting me either as I was, and my sensitivities and things like that, and the fact that I could sense and see more than the average person. And it sounds like you grew up with something very, very similar. And then, of course, at 11, yours goes kind of haywire and goes like even more. So now it's like even more alienation, even more isolation, even more not having anyone maybe around you understanding how you're processing the world. So did you find that like that was like a kind of feeling of like needing to look at what was wrong with you, as opposed to maybe I'm okay and maybe I need better support?
Right. And that's exactly it, because it turned into this double-edged sword where I was getting from the outside world that this is something that's a weakness inside of you, Dawn. This sensitivity and your being able to perceive things isn't something that's normal, and that should ultimately be fixed. And so I started to develop these beliefs around myself that there's something wrong with me, there's something broken within me, that I'm unlovable and that I'm not good enough. And while those were all ultimately running in the background, I was also so incredibly fascinated with this. And my whole life, now I know deeply that I was being guided by source, by spirit, to understand this on a deeper level. And so I went on this journey to find out what was wrong with me, but I ended up finding out so much about what was amazing and magical about being an HSP. And I studied things like Wiccanism and spirituality, and like I said, self-help and energy and plant medicine. And although it was all quite a solitary journey for me, I felt always very connected in some way to something deeper than me, which I didn't understand. And it was kind of scary at the same time, but it was always something that I could hear and feel and be comforted by in that solitude, and feeling like a unicorn, but not necessarily in a good way. Yeah.
So tell us when you started to really like maybe hear the term like highly sensitive person and realizing, oh, that's me. That's who I've been all these years. I'm not broken. Actually, probably don't need fixing. I need majorly unconditioning because I've been conditioned to believe that this is a weakness. And actually, I realize now that it's actually probably my superpower. So talk us through a little bit about what that journey looked like, because that was a deep healing journey for you, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And it happened in fragments, I would say. It didn't happen all at once. You know, there were many different things on my path that guided me to be able to see this as a superpower in a way that I hadn't. But it took quite a while to be able to get to that point. And so my passion for learning about all of these things that I've now studied led me in some way to lean into that. But it wasn't until I started taking integrative health coaching at university where I realized I could learn to apply my empathy, my sensitivity, and my intuition, and this energy work that I had studied in a way to help other people. That I really learned, like, okay, that being highly sensitive was something that I can learn and use to help other people, but I hadn't really learned how to help myself with it yet, to be honest. And I learned to apply it to help other people before I learned to help myself with it. And it was only until about, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, when I really started to see that my high sensitivity was something that I could use not only to help others, but I needed to come first with it, and that that would actually be in service even deeper, on a deeper level, to help others as well. And I think that's really common for highly sensitive people, that we're jumping to be able to help other people because of our intuition and our empathy. And we feel like that's why we're here. Like if we can't learn to fix it, then at least we can learn to be accepted by others for it. And that's
Mm.
really the deep disconnect that
Yes.
Spirit was trying to show me through learning all of these things to help myself, but I was applying them first to help others. And then when I took a step back and said, okay, how can I help myself first? Everything began to shift.
I think that was very much the big shift for me, like going through what I call, I guess, selfish journey, and like really getting myself and healing myself first, filling my vessel up first, and then my capacity to give, which I'd always been called to do, just exponentially increased. And it sounds like you went on such a similar journey of realizing like I can give more from a full cup than I can give from an empty cup or a barely anything in the bottom cup, which I think so many highly sensitive people do. They end up they're just giving, and they're never really in a state of receiving. And it needs to be a giving and a receiving that happens. Yeah. So tell us about your journey, because through your healing journey, you created your own kind of healing model called the butterfly effect healing. So tell us a bit about that, because that sounds really amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it because all of these modalities and things that I've learned, when I learned to combine them in a really specific way, then I learned to help clients in a really more powerful way than just one modality alone. Mm-hmm. And so it's a gentle and effective holistic psychic energy healing for highly sensitive spiritual women. And it works to access and clear energy from the past that is affecting you in the present. So in the combination of the modalities that I use, it works to tap into the quantum, the Akashic records, and the wisdom of your body to get to the root causes of the things that have caused you trauma, so you can heal from them and clear painful memories, unhealthy patterns, health conditions, and limiting beliefs, ultimately, that go back to your childhood that made you believe that you're unlovable or unworthy. And so this creates a ripple effect of healing, empowerment, and positive expansion across your life and body, mind, and spirit.
I love that. I love that. And this is something that you've sort of really been taking yourself through as well, like doing the deep shadow work, because I think this is another thing with highly sensitive people, is that when they are already sensitive and we feel everything so very, very deeply, whether you're a sensitive person like me or a highly sensitive person like you, you know, we feel things so deeply. So like the shadow's like, let's leave that alone. Because we're already feeling everything at an enhanced level. But let's talk a little bit about the shadow work and how important that is to actually have a look at the pieces of ourselves that's a little bit uncomfortable, shall we say, or a lot uncomfortable if we're very sensitive.
Absolutely. So, you know, a lot of highly sensitive people, I think, can cringe even at the word shadow work because it can invoke those uncomfortable feelings. But shadow work doesn't have to look the same for everyone, especially not for a highly sensitive person like myself. And that's why I took myself on this journey and learned to combine these modalities in a way that are really gentle. And often with shadow work, you know, it invokes this sense of we have to kind of go to the dark night of the soul. And so many highly sensitive people or sensitive spiritual people have been through that. We don't want to have to go through that again just to heal. So
it's like re-traumatizing yourself, right, just in the name of healing, which kind of is like, well, then we have to go again, because then we have to like heal the trauma of being re-traumatized. And we're never done.
Yes, Joanna, exactly. So I really feel like in order to heal, it doesn't have to hurt. You don't have to relive these painful memories. You can actually learn to experience healing in a way that you can observe your shadow and learn to integrate it in a way that when you shine light on it, and that's ultimately how I see shadow work, is just being able to shine the light on these unintegrated, unhealed, unloved parts of yourself so that you can become more whole, healthy, and healed. And certainly it can be really, really gentle. And so when you are experiencing things in your body, your mind, and your spirit that cause you pain, and you can learn to see them from a higher perspective, ultimately witnessing yourself, so getting out of your own way, getting out of your ego, and holding space in this really gentle, meditative way, then you're able to witness yourself and your life experiences in a quantum way, in a way that you can just let things go and understand that deeper divine part of yourself that's there to support you and help to guide you into the light of who you really are. That's what I love to do, and to hold space for highly sensitive people to heal.
I love that. And I think so many highly sensitive people have met the rough ends of what we call in my world the people police. They've been really policed for their emotions. They've been policed because they're easy to come to tears. Even at the weekends, I even excused how easily my eyes tear up, because I was like, oh, don't worry, we're all good. I cry at Star Trek. And it was like my mouth before I even did. I mean, and I will cry. I have cried at Star Trek. So it's like, it's not even a lie. It's like, that's who I am, like if the story's sad, I'm like, oh, but that's, that is, that's who I am. And I think, we have been so policed, because when somebody shows an excess of emotion, it's deeply uncomfortable for other people. I think for some people, it's very, very uncomfortable.
It can be, for sure. And I resonate with that. But I also feel like it's not our job to be responsible for how other people feel, 100%. First of all, and that we can take back the word of being sensitive, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that we're hurt easily, right? And also that it is still up to us. It is our responsibility to ourselves to be able to regulate our emotions so that we can be our own safe person and our own safe container, ultimately, to feel what we feel in a safe way, but not have to people please and repress ourselves or suppress ourselves in any way. Because I feel like it's actually something that's missing in a lot of people. And that every time that I've been told I'm too sensitive or too much, or that it was a weakness, I'm compassionate and aware enough to know that someone telling me that is actually not in touch with their own sensitivity, their own empathy and compassion. And so when we can really highlight that it's not a weakness, and that in fact, in our world where there is so much chaos and things that we wish we could heal about the world, that being highly sensitive is something that we can bring forward in ourselves to help other people to see that it's okay and it's safe to feel. It's okay to have emotions.
I think there's an Instagram reel, like an audio for an Instagram reel that's going about at the moment. And it's like, am I extra, or is it that you're basic? And it's like, and it's like, which perspective is it? Because you might call me extra, but is that really, or is it that the problem is maybe actually with you, and I love that you say, highly sensitive people can take ownership of sensitivity, and sensitivity does not mean that they're weak, and they can regulate their own emotional energy systems as well, and that they can be in control of this, because I think that's a big part of embracing it as a superpower. It's that ownership, isn't it? And I think there's another Instagram reel that I've seen, and it's like, I am not intimidated. I'm not intimidating. You are intimidated. And there is a difference. And, and it's like that. And because people can say, well, you're intimidating. Well, maybe it's you are intimidated, and, I'm not going to shift and change myself. And I think for far too long, so many sensitive people have been willing to shift and change themselves in order to fit a more society norm. But all we need to do is look at society ask ourselves, how are we doing as
Yes.
a collective, and realize that there's something wrong in the core of things, and that perhaps, the need for everybody to take more ownership over who they are, as opposed to trying to conform to something that they are not.
Oh, so beautifully said. And I feel like that is really how I can sum up my healing journey, is that I was shown so much of who I am so I can embrace so much of who am not, so I can embrace who I really am. Right. And that means that I'm not too sensitive. I'm not weak. I'm not these projections of society that's afraid to feel their feelings. Right. And so ultimately, when we're allowing ourselves to come from that empowered place where we own our emotions and our feelings, and we have boundaries, and we can be assertive about that, we're not taking on other people's energy and emotions, then we can own that our sensitivity is a superpower, and it's something that can even be developed with our intuition and with, being guided through our spirituality.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful thing. When if you are listening to this podcast and you're really resonating with, and you have probably heard the word too many times,
Right.
you're to this, you're to that, you're to, and you've heard that word many, many times, chances are that you're probably highly sensitive, highly intuitive, highly in tune. And maybe you haven't owned it at this point in time. What would you say are your top tips for beginning that journey of seeing those things that other people have maybe tried and policed about you as actual gifts? What would be the first kind of few steps that somebody can take that's maybe first listening to this and thinking, oh my God, this is me. They're talking about me. I'm resonating with this so much. They're talking about me. I heard all those words growing up. You're to this, you're to that. Oh, get over yourself. All of these things are used to really, really police highly sensitive humans into a box that nobody really actually fits into.
Yeah. And first of all, my heart just goes out to anyone who feels that way, because I know so deeply how that feels. And so, first of all, I would say that it is a journey to empowerment and to accept yourself on this path. And self-love and acceptance is really the first step. So be compassionate towards yourself, that this is something that was instilled in you, that you're too much or you're too little of this and that. And if you're being told you're too sensitive, then you have these limiting beliefs that are programmed in your mind, but they don't have to run the show forever, right? And so start taking your power back from these limiting beliefs. Remember that it's a journey, and start taking your power back from these limiting beliefs. And then also remember that it's up to you to instill powerful boundaries, and that you don't have to listen to anyone telling you that you're too much or you're not enough, right? That's a space for you to be empowered and be assertive and have, develop communication skills so that you can actually own this part of yourself as being highly sensitive and having superpower. And then how I see it all really coming together is through the energetics of it, and remembering that there are certain energy practices that are really effective for highly sensitive people to stay within their own energy field, grounded within their body, and to really help yourself heal and be empowered with all of these life skills as an HSP, so that you're on this road of being in this space as highly sensitive, and it's your superpower. So there's certain things that I feel like are really, really important for highly sensitive spiritual people. And some of those things that work really well for me and my clients are meditation, grounding, and energy work, affirmations, and things that remind you of who you are in body, mind, and spirit.
I love that. I love that. And I love that right at the very beginning of is that self-love and self-acceptance. And I truly am of the mindset that self-love will literally solve all of our problems. It really does. And your standards and your boundaries, as you begin to learn and go on the journey of self-love, they change. What I'm willing to put up with today is so very different than what I was willing to put up with when I wasn't really exactly loving myself, when I was usually at the very, very bottom of a very large priority list. And that's even if I made the list, because more often than not, I didn't even make my own priority list. And, and then learning to love myself and going from being nowhere on that list to being the top person on that list, and learning that I was deserving of that. But then the magic of having the universe respond in kind to me, and my shift in consciousness of moving myself on that list and then moving myself to the top of that list and stuff. And I really, truly believe self-love is such a powerful thing. And I think because we are not taught it as children, it is something where we need to hire somebody like you, and who does coaching on this and helps people to actually go on the journey, as opposed and have a guide, because it's a lot easier to do this journey with a guide than it is to try and figure it all out ourselves. Because you are like me, you figured it out yourself, and I figured it out myself. But like, if I had gotten a guide earlier in the process, it would have been a lot easier, but there would have been a lot less tears, put it that way. But this is my, Dawn is one of my clients, and it's really beautiful that I am guiding Dawn in her business as she's continuing to unfold all of the magics that she unfolds. But you don't, in a way, we're kind of saying, like, don't be like Dawn and Joanna and like try and tough that thing out on your own. It's actually so much easier if you allow someone just to help you and guide you on the journey, hold the space for you, right?
I have to laugh at that, because I have had to develop a sense of humor around this, because in my darkest moments, I have so wished that someone was there to guide me, and that I wasn't just relying on my spiritual connection or books to find these answers that I was so seeking to understand myself better. And through that, on the other side of it, really, well, I'm in my journey, but I often say to myself, I'm the person who I wish that I would have had going through all of this. Right. And I often hear from my clients like, oh, I wish I would have found you sooner. I'm so glad I found you now. Right. And I feel
a lot.
I feel like it is just such a gift that you can give to yourself when you do find someone that you resonate with, and to take that support, because you don't have to do this alone. And it's actually so much easier if you have the guidance and support. I can't thank you enough, Joanna, like this last year of getting to know you and finally feeling like I do have the support and I'm not on this journey alone. There have been others, but it's been much shorter and not as energetically expansive. So I always kind of felt like, okay, well, I'm coming back to myself to take lessons and integrate things. But I feel like now my life has expanded so much and will continue to do so. And HS, being highly sensitive, having someone on your side who's been through the journey and can understand what it's like to not even feel safe with this gift can be so incredibly valuable. And that's really what I want to say about it, is that it's safe to feel like you're okay to be highly sensitive, and to really own that. Safety is one of the first steps that I use in my healing process for my clients, is that you can't grow and heal from a space of lack of safety. Right. And so safety is so incredibly paramount when it comes
so important, because who wants to go and tango with like a feeling of total unsafety? You know, like, of course you don't want to, like, you're screaming at the TV in a horror movie, don't go in that dark passage, you know, and it's like, that's what it's like when we're trying as human beings to create something different for ourselves. We're walking into that unknown. We're just like that. Part of us is screaming at the television, don't walk down that dark passage. It's, you know, it's terrifying. Who knows what's going to be in that darkness? And I think, you know, this is the thing, is that we can, well, what if we take a lantern with us down that passage, illuminate the walls a little bit, illuminate the path a little bit? What if we walked down that passage and we weren't alone? We had a guide like myself or Dawn to take you on the journey, right? Like, what if we, you know, well, what if we actually did it with an entire lady posse and we joined a program and we all, like, now that's starting to sound like, oh, that's actually, I could get into this. This could be like, this is now starting to sound like a mini adventure, but it started as this awful dark passage of, like, where if you had been watching a horror movie, you'd be screaming at the screen, don't go there, don't go there, you know, and then suddenly now we're in this energetics of, like, this could be an adventure, this could be fun, you know, where we've got a guide, we've got a lantern, we got a lady posse coming with us that's doing the work with us, and we're doing it all together. We're facing this inside, and I think that's so important. And I mean, that's the power of, like, group programs and the power of being supported. As you were speaking there, Dawn, one of the things that really, really popped into my head, and maybe you can confirm if this is true for you as well, but I realized the reason I toughed it out was that, actually, to be really brutally honest, was I didn't actually have enough self-love for myself in the early days to give myself the gift of a guide.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that, but I also really feel like it comes back around to your your connection to yourself is everything, right? Yeah. And when you don't have that self-love and you're not feeling safe, then you're not actually going to energetically resonate with people who can help you on that journey in a way that's really going to guide you. I don't know that everyone experiences their healing journey that way, but I certainly did. And so a lot of the times I would go outside of myself and look for support and help, and end up having to come back to myself and be like, oh my gosh, that definitely wasn't safe. And so I know that that was part of the gift that Spirit gave me, so that I could be more independent and continue on my learning and growing journey. I see that, but it wasn't always easy, right? And so, but the more that I did learn to love myself and was guided towards that, I did meet people that were safe. I did meet people that I could go on this journey with, and I was learning more, and I would come back to myself and love myself more, not just because of that, but because I was willing to love myself first.
I love that. That is a beautiful place to finish up this gorgeous podcast. Tell people, Dawn, where can they find you on the internet? Where's your favorite place to hang out? And then we'll pop all your links to your socials, your website, everything. We'll pop them all in the show notes.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful conversation, Joanna. Thank you. And you can go to my website at dawncatena.com. That's DAWNCATENA.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm going to be launching a really beautiful program for highly sensitive women called Highly Sensitive and Sensational. So it's an empowerment program that I'd love to take some women on in their healing journey. And you can hear all about that on my social media. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll be the first to hear about it.
Fabulous. That is so great. Thank you so much again. And I can't wait to share this one with the world.
Thank you so much, Joanna.